What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Us vs. Them YouTube channel. I'm your host, Vince, and in this channel, we break down in depth the upcoming UFC fights for the weekend so we can put together intelligent but long shot parlays so we can make some money. So, with that, we're going to get into the next three fights for the upcoming UFC card this weekend. The first fight we're going to get into today is Miles Johns versus Gene Matsumoto. Miles Johns is coming in at a plus 240 underdog, and Gene Matsumoto is sitting at a minus 330 favorite. If there's one thing I've ever done for you guys, it's sit through 4 Miles Johns fights. Those are some extremely boring fights, so you can't say, even if this parlay doesn't hit this weekend, you can't say I've never done anything for you. I sat through 4 extremely boring Miles Johns fights, and I really don't want to sit through another one, but we're going to have to this weekend. Johns has the same approach pretty much every single fight. He's just looking to uncork that right hand. He doesn't really set it up that much. Pretty much the only thing he really does to set it up is methodical pressuring. He's not really throwing anything at all. He's just winning the foot battle to get some guys the pressure against the cage to where they feel like they have to go, and that's when he uncorks that right. It's extremely fucking boring for the fans. It was miserable to watch, but that's just how he sets it up. Sometimes it's effective, but the real loser is always the fans. Matsumoto has a more technical approach in his striking. He lands with kicks, elbows, punches. He utilizes all of his weapons, and he throws them at different angles. He also mixes in good leg kicks, which I think will be advantageous for him this weekend. Miles Johns, as much as I've shit on him already, he does move in and out really well, and he keeps himself really safe with that. And he's also able to explode in intelligently and land that right hand. If you were to land some leg kicks early on, it'll be advantageous for him because they'll slow Miles Johns down and keep him just not moving as much. Johns also does a really good job of maintaining a high guard when he's on his feet, which can be really frustrating for his opponents when he's not throwing a whole lot, and he's also you're not able to land very cleanly on him. I think Matsumoto is more willing to take damage to get damage, which will makes it a more exciting fight for sure. But he needs to be mindful because Johns is a really powerful and explosive dude. Miles Johns will mix in double leg takedowns, which has been a problem for Matsumoto in the past. In the Dan Argueta fight, we saw Argueta take him down over and over again. But the good thing about that is we saw Matsumoto work back to his feet every single time. He spent almost no time on the ground. He was always quick to get back to his feet. He didn't accept any damage, didn't accept the bottom position. And I can see if Miles Johns comes in to wrestle this weekend, it could work to his detriment. I do see him landing takedowns early, but I see Matsumoto coming right back up. To hold a guy down is exhausting on your cardio, and Miles Johns has had an issue with his cardio in the past, being that just a short, stocky dude who likes to explode in. Obviously, that takes energy. So if he comes in with a wrestling game approach, it could end up working to his detriment throughout the entirety of the fight. Another reason why Johns slows down throughout his fights is because he tends to throw with all of his might in his strikes, and a lot of times he's missing and completely swinging at air. If you swing at air as hard as you can throughout a 15-minute fight, your cardio is gonna take a toll on that for sure. So I think his cardio, if it does get to the later rounds of the fight, he's gonna be in trouble. Matsumoto's cardio, on the other hand, does seem to be very battle-tested. In his fights against Brad Katona and, like we already mentioned, Dan Argueta, those were dog fights. They were grueling paces, a lot of wrestling, mixing in with a lot of striking when they weren't wrestling. They were just fighting high energy, high output type of fight, and his cardio held up well. Actually, in both of those fights, he looked like the fresher fighter in the third round. So the longer this fight goes, the more it's going to favor Gene Matsumoto. In my opinion in this fight, I think Miles Johns has one path to victory, and that's uncorking that right hand that actually lands flush and knocks Gene Matsumoto out. Obviously that can happen because it's a fucking fight. You never know. Anything can happen. But if he doesn't find a home for that right hand, I see him trying to mix in some wrestling because he's seen Gene Matsumoto being susceptible to the takedowns in the past. I think Matsumoto is going to work back to his feet, never accepting bottom position, and as the fight goes on, he's going to start landing the harder and cleaner strikes. So Miles Johns is a durable dude. I do like his durability, and I do like his ability to keep himself safe, but I don't like his ability to win a point fight because I think that's what's going to end up happening here. So I'm going with Gene Matsumoto by decision. The next fight we're going to be looking at is Andre Fili versus Christian Rodriguez. Andre Fili is sitting at a plus 196 underdog, and Christian Rodriguez is at a minus 260 favorite. The first thing I noticed when I'm breaking down Andre Fili is that his hands obviously tend to be very low. He makes that work for him in a lot of his fights. He's a UFC vet. I think this is his 23rd or 4th fight or something like that. He grew up in the octagon, cut his teeth in the octagon. But like I said, his hands tend to be very low. I like his footwork. You definitely need good footwork if you're going to have your hands low, and I do like that. But, and obviously there's a nice benefit too. Most guys are coming from right here, so the strikes are coming from like that. If your hands are low, they're coming from a different angle. So that new angle definitely adds a new flavor to it that most guys aren't used to fighting. But we've also seen it not work for him in the past. Against Dan Ige just launched a right hand that caught him flush. There was no arms over there to protect his face, and Ige knocked him out cold. So he is susceptible to getting knocked out. Andre Fili does have a really nice jab that he utilizes throughout fights. And I know it's super cliche to say in MMA that his jab is underutilized, but it really is. He is a rangy fighter, so sticking out that jab against a shorter fighter this weekend would help. Christian Rodriguez is going to be the shorter fighter, so playing the range game is going to be very beneficial, trying to attack his legs and pumping that jab out every time Christian Rodriguez tries to close the space. But we do see him not throw it very much. I think if he threw it 15 or 20 times around, he'd be in good shape, but he'll probably only end up throwing like 3 or 5. Even though Andre Fili is a vet, and we all know he's tough, we all know he's crafty, he's a good fighter and all that stuff, but one thing that I do think about is when I'm breaking down his fights is he doesn't seem like he's very comfortable being in close range. Sometimes even in kicking range, he doesn't seem like he's very comfortable, and you'll see him kind of getting out of space to even have a fight and doing his little dance moves, and I think he does that to calm his own nerves down, which is high level, it's high IQ, but it shows that sometimes maybe he doesn't really want to be in the fire, and sometimes that's not a good thing for sure, especially against a guy like Christian Rodriguez, who I think is kind of the exact opposite. I'm not saying he's going to be standing there wildly swinging and brawling, that's not what I'm saying at all, but he just seems like he never lets the moment become too big for him. Andre Fili, on the other hand, has described himself as being an overthinker, and I think he's sometimes in the middle of the octagon overthinking, which is not a good thing to do. Christian Rodriguez, like I said, he never lets the moment become too big for him, and we've seen him being battle tested in that over and over and over again. This dude has knocked down how many guys that we thought that were up and coming, going to be the future of the division. Cameron Simon, Raul Rosas Jr., Austin Bashi. Every single one of those guys, he's a big underdog. They feed into Christian Rodriguez, and the hype train is over. So I think the mentality of this fight is definitely going to lean towards Christian Rodriguez. Andre Fili, when he gets too close in range, because sometimes I think he's an overthinker, he lets thoughts just go completely out the window, and he just will accept a wild brawl. I think he does that because he doesn't think he has any other options. He doesn't feel like he has any other options. Rodriguez will accept a brawl in close if he has to, but it seems like he does a really good job of protecting himself when he's there too. So if they end up brawling, I'm leaning towards Rodriguez. I also like Rodriguez's toughness. We've seen him in his one of his past fights against Isaac Dulgarian. Dulgarian's a really high level, high controlling wrestler. Dulgarian really dominated the first round by getting an early takedown within the first 20 or 30 seconds or something like that. Spent the rest of the entire round on top of Rodriguez, landing good damage too. But Rodriguez stayed in the fight, kept his composure, and just worked his way back in. He recognized that Dulgarian was probably a little squeezed out from controlling him so much for 4.5 minutes of round 1, and he was able to capitalize on that. He started coming back in round 2, round 2, and then ended up dominating Dulgarian in round 3. So when you see a fight like that, it does show grit, toughness, and it also shows intelligence. He's very intelligent in the sense of he knows what to do to stay in fights. For my official prediction, I'm obviously leaning towards Christian Rodriguez. That's who I'm going with. I do like Andre Fili's toughness, his durability as well. So for my official prediction, I'm going with Christian Rodriguez by decision. But like I said, we all know that Fili will keep his hands down, and sometimes when he comes in with his hands down, he could get blasted on. So I think the KO prop is also live here. The last fight we're going to get into is Cody Brundage versus Eric McConico. That fight just got signed, I think, yesterday or early today, when I'm filming at least. So we don't have any lines on that, but I'm going to come out and flat out say it. Cody Brundage is one of my favorite fighters, and I'll tell you why. Last time I hit for a big bet was because Cody Brundage was the last leg of that. When he knocked out Julian Marquez or whoever it was, He was the last leg on that parlay. I had him by money line, and we turned $15 into $3,200. So obviously, I'm a huge fan of Cody Brundage. One thing that's going to help Cody Brundage during this fight is his experience in the octagon. He's coming into this fight. I think he's 5-5-1. So this is his 12th fight in the UFC. Whereas Eric McConico, he's making his sophomore debut. I'm going to come out and say it, guys. I think McConico is just a little bit outmatched in this fight. I think Brundage is going to be the stronger fighter. He's going to be the more seasoned fighter. He's going to be the faster fighter. He's going to have a grappling advantage. He has a lot of advantages, and he also really likes to go out there and impose his will early. McConico, like we said, this is his second fight in the UFC. He's 35 years old, and that's not necessarily a good look. And I think at least in the first fight, the moment got too big for him. Obviously, he can make an adjustment and do whatever he has to do mentally to be ready for that moment. But Cody Brundage has been here time and time again. So he's going to come out looking to be aggressive and looking to get the fight out of there early. I got to break down a couple of McConico's fights on the regional scene. They were against lower quality fighters, obviously. But I picked the two that seemed like they had the best record, or at least the most experience. I broke down a fight with a guy that he had named Tyler Ray that McConico ended up winning by decision. And I saw early in the fight that Ray was able to take him down with double legs. And if Ray can take him down, I knew Cody Brundage probably can too. Cody Brundage will come in with a nasty overhand right that he leads beautifully into a double leg. And he's taking down some high-level dudes with that. So, like I said, if Tyler Ray can take him down, Brundage definitely can. Another thing that I observed in McConico's regional scene fights, he spent a lot of his pro career in the Tough Enough promotion. And when you look at the size of their octagons versus the size of a normal UFC octagon, it is much smaller. And with that, also, I think there's a factor of how much people move or how much they're used to moving when they're competing. McConico stands very flat-footed, and he either moves forward or backwards most of the time. He doesn't move side to side, and he's not bouncing on his feet. Because of that, I think it's really easy I think he telegraphs a lot of his strikes. Once that foot movement starts to happen, it's easy to see, all right, he's getting ready to load up and throw something, and you can easily glide out of the way. Brundage, on the other hand, does move his feet a lot more. I'm not saying he's the master at footwork or by any means, but compared to somebody who doesn't move their feet at all, this is also going to favor Brundage. We already know where this is going. For my official prediction, I'm leaning towards my guy, Cody Brundage. He's spent his whole career beating lower-level UFC guys, and I think business is going to continue this weekend. They're going to feed Eric McConico to him, and I think Brundage is just going to eat him up. I think the power in his hands is going to play a factor. McConico has been landed on in regional scene fights against much lower caliber fighters, and he got rocked. With a very explosive dude like Cody Brundage, that's not going to favor him well. So for my official prediction, I'm leaning towards my guy, Cody Brundage, by knockout. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Come back tomorrow. We're breaking down the last 3 fights for the upcoming fight night this weekend. I'm really excited to break those down. I see a lot of money-making opportunities. We've already broke down 9 fights, and I feel really good about those breakdowns. I feel a lot more confident than I did the last couple of weeks. So I'm definitely expecting a higher level of success. So stay tuned so we can bring this one home this weekend. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Let's go, Cody Brundage, motherfucker.